Hey everyone, it's your girl Maddie here, aka Beaver Mosh, and today I'm going to start probably what's going to become a monthly series. And I realized throughout the month that I can only review so many of the albums that I actually enjoy. But there's always so many more that I feel like I don't want to leave out. And so this is how I'm going to remedy it. At the end of every month, I'm going to look back at what came out and what I enjoyed, and I'm going to talk about a chunk of them ever so briefly. Basically, I am just mentioning them to you. Now, I also want to say what does end up on this list doesn't necessarily mean that I enjoyed them less than what I actually reviewed. There are other reasons why I might review an album other than the fact that it was my favorite. I particularly like reviewing things that I don't see a lot of other people talking about. I like to go typically a little deeper in the music I discover and want to stress and try to bring exposure to. I think it's the best use of my channel right now. But in this video, you might see some heavier hitters or some bigger act, or me just kind of acknowledging records already getting some hype. So, let's begin. Ashen Ritual of Ash was a outstanding death metal record that came out of Perth, Australia. It has a nod to the old school, but there's so much more going on. There's some melodicism, kind of some progressive elements. There's a technicality to be found as well. It's kind of a jack of all trades death metal album. And it's just oozing with creativity, and it is just an engaging and interesting listen throughout. The German-based Ahab came out with a new release with the Choral Tombs. And to be honest, when I first heard this record, I didn't dig it. It didn't really sit with me. But I realized that I was not being fair to what this record was, and I am a huge fangirl of this band's earliest, very pure funeral doom record. And this record isn't that. They evolved their sound, and to be honest, my initial reaction may have been a little too influenced by other opinions I saw on Twitter, but after letting this grow on me and sit, I think it rules, kind of, actually. The funeral doom aspects are there, but they expand. There's some aspects of more like traditional doom. There are some slower, more quieter passages. There's some post-metal experimentation going on. And there's just so many more influences that get thrown into their mix while still maintaining that very crushing nautical approach to doom metal that Ahab does so well. I believe this record is pronounced Vicio by Ross. I did get some help with that pronunciation. I hope it's as accurate as possible. And out of Russia comes a surprising atmospheric black metal album. That's the best way to describe it, because this project incorporates so many other elements. There's definitely this adventurous edge to it, definitely some doom metal elements, and there's just this real intriguing emotiveness to be found here. Out of Kansas City, we have Abandoned in Spring by Corvus Corone. This is a Syrup Moose Recordings release, and please check out Syrup Moose. They're good people putting out consistently really interesting music. But anyway, we have some crushing funeral doom here, some real downtrodden shit, if that is what your thing is. Also, congrats on the feature on the BANDCAMP Essential Releases. Really cool to see. Hope this record gets more attention. We have Walrus 3, some Dutch melodic black metal with this kind of folksy sheen to it. It's pretty engrossing. The Greek bass Thy Darkened Shade came out with Liber Lucifer 2, and this is a really complex and challenging work of black metal. It's very sprawling and daring. It's kind of progressive, definitely for people who want a bit more of an experimental and an adventurous take on the genre. And out of New Jersey, we got Dark Steel and Fire from The Gauntlet. Some nasty black and roll. The early Bathory influences come out super obviously. If you're a fan of Hellripper or Midnight, you're gonna love this one. Out of Quebec, we have this new release from Turpitude. And this is some raw, cold black metal that makes room for some more somber passages as well. It's always daring when bands construct their records this way with less songs but in longer takes. And just excellent musicianship is displayed throughout here as well. We had some Chinese black metal from a band, I believe it's pronounced Hoplites. This is some really chaotic take on the genre, kind of an avant-garde black metal release. There's some noisy elements and some obscuring passages, but not in a way that's like super overindulgent. It's actually really fun to listen to. Out of Iowa City, Dryad came out with the Abyssal Plane, and this is some harsh, energetic, crust punk infused black metal, which is a thing I have a soft spot for. Also, this record somehow incorporates some really cool symphonic elements as well. Out of Sweden, we have the new Twilight Force at the heart of Wintervale, and I like power metal, and I don't care what you think about that. Over the top, super fun choruses, cheesy as you can possibly get, and that is exactly what I'm looking for in my power metal. Out of Vancouver, we get some goth-infused, mournful doom metal with Tribunal's Weight of Remembrance. It's very gloomy, but also kind of beautiful in its sorrow. Out of Denmark, The Inquisitor released Apotheosis. Very vintage, very guttural, no nonsense death metal. It lacks any pretension. It's just here to pummel you. And I'm always up for stuff like that. Out of Boston, Malius released The Fires of Heaven. Just some shredding, blackened speed metal that rips with satanic madness. Out of Cincinnati, Faith Extractor released Contempt for a Failed Generation. It's just some unforgiving and unrelenting death metal. It's hella dark, but in a way that allows for a lot of turns and change-ups and instrumental sort of shifts. And it's all packed with this gruesome hostility that I really fuck with. The US-based Glyph released The Time of Peril, some atmospheric black metal with a raw dissonance, but in a way that projects a lot of emotiveness. There's just some fantastic guitar work as well. It's one that really caught my attention late, and I'm glad I gave it a listen. Out of Helsinki, Anzilu released Ex Nihilo, just some ripping thrash metal. Not overly complex, but it does take some turns, some unexpected kind of changes in pace. Just the playing, the riffs, the leads here, it's all well done, and there's a lot to love about this record. Out of San Diego, Condreth released The Parasitic Chamber, some mammoth, old school leaning death metal, but one with a progressive and explorative edge as well. Out of Canada, Nephilim's Noose released some absolutely devastating death doom. Out of Switzerland, Anachronism released the exceptional Meanders, some technical death metal that uses its virtuosity to create these complex atmospheres for the listener and this perplexing dissonance. It's very explorative and takes a lot of interesting directions. This thing slaps, and it's not overly pretentious. It's really tangible and palpable. Transtorn into the void, Chilean thrash metal. Don't overthink it. Rippin' thrash, super gnarly, super nasty, hella fun. Out of the UK, Fear and Holt released White Frost and Elder Blood, some dungeon synth laced atmospheric black metal. It's very summoning-esque, and this one was high on my list for the month. It's just so intoxicating. This is very much my type of shit. Out of Italy, Falaise released After All This Time, some very powerful and moving post-black metal. These melancholic and haunting sections help amplify the more harsh and dissonant moments. It's a real emotional journey. Profane Order. One nightmare onto another out of Quebec. What can I say? Unrelenting, untamed, bestial black metal. Takes no prisoners from one of the best names in war metal today. Love the hell out of this. And Negative Vortex. Tomb Absolute. Some punishing death metal with a sense of atmosphere and this maze-like swirling songcraft. It's complex, but not overly so. It still focuses very much on the punishing aspects of the music. After a series of compelling demos, the California-based Devouring Famine released Haunting Echo. This is some raw, cold, mystifying black metal. Did a great job crafting these sinister atmospheres. It's just pure, true as fuck black metal. Out of Germany, we had the latest from Imperium Decadence, Into Sorrow Evermore. And this is another record that didn't grab me initially. I didn't quite understand the appeal going forward, but it grew on me for sure. And I couldn't deny the majestic melancholy that this record produces so well, and that's really where you need to focus, because that is where the record's strength lies, and I'm glad I did give it another go. And now I also want to talk about some EPs and some demos that also really stuck with me. And first, I gotta mention the series of splits that Tra did. And does this person miss? How does this happen? I can't wrap my head around it. Consistently puts out some of the most compelling music in this raw, ambient wing of black metal. And Gideons Horn, a US-UK split-based project, released Triumphant Command. This really fucking awesome raw black metal demo that leans into its Yiddish lyrics and touchstones. Out of Asheville, North Carolina, Oblivion Throne released Void Gazer, some kick-ass, rippin', heavy speed thrash hybrid stuff. There's not much to think about. It just ruled. It's so well crafted and really fun to dive into. Running Maiden out of Switzerland released this really compelling EP, some really anthemic, vintage sounding heavy metal. I'm really looking forward to what they do next. And it's a Dying Victims release, so you know it's going to be good. On Ultra Outbreak of Hell, Chilean based Hell Poison gave us raw, primal black and speed metal. And that's the end of my list. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Subscribe if you'd be so kind. Really helps get this video out there, helps the algorithm. Please leave a comment. I love engaging with those. Tell me what you thought about this format. Do you want me to keep doing this? Give me any feedback. It's kind of a first attempt at this new concept for the channel. I have a Twitter you can follow. Link to that is in the bio of this YouTube channel. Keep it metal. My name is Maddie, aka Beavermosh. Signing off.